But let's get into our conversation for this hour with former MP for Nyeri Town, Ngunjiri Wambugu. We'll be talking about Jubilee, the new mathematics that is at play. It's a puzzle. I don't know if the pieces are quite fitting just yet. But hashtag is Fixing the Nation NTV. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, ladies?
Very well.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. We usually start off our conversations with a quote of the day that Phalaris will share with you. You can say if it speaks to you, if you agree or disagree.
All right.
Karibu sana, and nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
I know you've been at Fixing the Nation before.
Yes.
First time meeting.
Yes.
So today's quote is a West African proverb, and it says, "The canoe does not know who is king. When it turns over, everybody gets wet." The canoe does not know who is king. When it turns over, everyone gets wet. How does that speak to you, even in terms of the conversation that we're about to have?
I think my immediate interpretation of that would be like the canoe is a structure. It's built to move you from one place to another. And it will move anyone. You don't have to be a king to be moved by the canoe. But assuming you're a king, I think if you get carried away with the fact that you're a king and expect it to behave different, you will get wet. So basically what I pick from that is the system will work with whoever is in it, or it will fail to work with whoever is in it if it's not managed properly.
Okay, I like that. It's a really good interpretation of it.
Thank you.
Let's get into our conversation now. I'll start with what has been in the headlines today and over the weekend, which is just a lot of inflammatory, illegal, problematic comments. Some coming from UDA allies talking about vote rigging. The front page of the Daily Nation today says Ruto allies hype vote rigging plot. It's the same to the Taifa Leo. Vilio viongozi wakisema UDA itaiba kura 2027. I know you've had the remarks from Ayub Savula and from Charles Gimose. I know you've also had previous utterances. What do you make of them?
I think as a country we are suffering from a verbal diarrhea of some kind within our political class. Careless statements, not very well thought out, and spur of the moment rhetoric, so that you're speaking to a moment without thinking about what that particular moment, what you've said, affects the bigger picture.
Yes.
I would assume that the last people who should be suggesting there's going to be vote rigging would be people in government. I mean, the people who should be talking about vote rigging are opposition people, who should be talking against it, who should be claiming it's going to happen. You cannot be in government and then suggest that you're actually going to steal elections. Right. Whether or not you intend to steal elections, you cannot be the one who is saying those kind of things. So there's a certain recklessness, a certain carelessness, and also a certain element of pride and hubris. Because when you say you will do whatever it takes to win an election, of course you will do whatever it takes to win an election. We assume that means you will do whatever it takes within the law.
Do we?
If you're not saying the kind of things we're saying, you can actually say we will do whatever it takes to win the election.
Correct.
Then when you start going beyond that boundary to atakama ni kuiba kura, now you're being careless, especially if you're in government. So that carelessness and that recklessness is being done by people who are not thinking through there's nobody who loses an election. I've been a politician, I've lost an election, I've won an election. It's very hard to convince a politician he's lost an election.
Right.
He's going to clutch at whatever straws exist, including na mulikuwa mmesema mtaiba, whether or not they lost. So that is bad environment setting for an election that is 1 year down the road, and especially very careless coming from government.
Do you think what did I call them? Not henchmen. Lackeys, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but yani to coat hangers looking for relevance, or that they actually have credible intelligence that they're going to rig an election, or that they're going to do whatever it takes.
My personal opinion, they have no idea what's going on. Anybody who would know how they will rig an election will not talk about it.
Correct.
Anybody who is saying they're going to rig an election is most probably trying to find relevance and be noticed. Either ambiwe wacha kusema hiyo maneno, or he be pulled into whatever it is that is going on.
Yeah.
The people who actually know what's going on will not be talking about how this is going. So, and that's why I say this has been careless. This is somebody who, if you are in the center of an election process and you had an idea, oh, we're going to do this here, you will not be the kind of person who is talking about it in public. So, as I said, they've just been careless.
Irresponsible.
Irresponsible, very
politics.
irresponsible.
Speaking of irresponsible, just to get your thoughts on the ongoing backlash that is facing the UDA SecGen, that's Hassan Omar. I believe you've come across what it is that he said down in Kwale, and you know there's been a lot of backlash, especially from politicians and members of the political class from the Mount Kenya area, including Nyeri governor, who was very, very clear about how he does not support and actually has called for Senator Omar to leave his SecGen seat. Now, two things here. There is what he said and there's how he said it. And I want you to give me your thoughts on those two.
Unfortunately, in politics, what you said doesn't count. As much as how you said it. And the reason political leadership requires you to be responsible in what you say is that people never really remember. Today, if you ask people to tell you what Hassan Omar said in specifics, they wouldn't know. They just said, aliongea vibaya, alitusi jamii. I mean, there's, and that's why it's so careful to be, that's why it's so important to be careful what you're saying. But he also was actually careless in what he actually said. He when you listen to that speech, the bits that I actually listened to, he started by attacking one person, who was Uhuru Kenyatta, then got carried away and expanded now at wow. You know, now that is part of where you know hate speech. Even the laws in our country don't actually have a problem with you hating a person. You know, there's nobody can make you like a person. You can say, you know what, it's my right to hate you. It's when you hate a community that you get in trouble with the law. So if you have a problem with an individual, you, as much as we wish you didn't actually spew hate about him, you can. And we will be annoyed, we'll be upset, but you haven't broken a law. When you expand it to what wow, and you don't describe whether you're talking about the family or you're talking about his friends or you're talking... Now, the interpretation becomes, it is a person and his tribe. And that is now where the how he said it has put him in trouble. And for you to understand it's put him in trouble, I know Hassan Omar, by the time he penned that apology, it's the pressure, and I don't think it's going to be all. He might actually end up getting kicked out of office because he's also made his boss, the president and the party leader, look very bad. Remember, President Ruto is going through a very difficult relationship period with the Mount Kenya region. His Secretary General cannot be making those kind of comments, whatever he thinks about it. So we have a by-election happening in Olkalau, and the competition, especially the DCP party, has now latched onto what Hassan Omar said, and I saw some of them saying they're going to be playing that video in their political rallies. So it's become... I mean,
it's low-hanging fruit.
Yes, it's become... He introduced ammunition for his enemies, or for the party enemies. That wasn't required.
Okay. The last time we had you on the show, you hinted that Mount Kenya loves to be on the winning side, So Mount Kenya could swing two-term if the rest of the country is moving in that direction. Where do you think the country is right now in terms of one-term, two-term, and where do you think Mount Kenya is in your assessment? Okay.
Yes, Mount Kenya likes being on the winning side, but I don't think it's very specific to Mount Kenya. I don't think anybody likes...
No one likes losing.
Being on the losing side. So a lot of the times when you're in any competition, you want to look like you're winning, unless you're Arsenal and it takes you 22 years. But you want to look like you're actually winning.
Yes.
Right? And politically, that's why the cycles are small. You'll watch what President Ruto is doing and presidents before him. When you're going to a re-election campaign, you want to build a momentum of inevitability of your win.
Yes.
You want people to get used to the fact that anyway, this guy is actually going to win. And I think UDA has done that to a large extent with the by-elections. So every time you win a by-election, even people who don't like you start saying, permission. Are we going to be able to stop these guys? So that's momentum. And it's going to be interesting to watch Olkalau. For example, if the ruling party was to win in Olkalau, they have built another plank into we cannot be defeated. Once you get there, for a lot of people who politics is not personal, it's based on which side. And I guess, again, using the football rhetoric, people want to go with a team that looks like it's going to win. So the minute UDA, for example, if it was to start looking like it's going to win, and the maths start looking like they're mathing you, we've got various regions looking like they're coming together behind Ruto. I don't think Mount Kenya is going to be the region that wants to go into opposition knowing that they're going to go into opposition. And that's why by-elections are very interesting. The Mbere by-election, the reason the candidate who won on the government side, despite the region being generally anti-government, was the argument that you cannot, right at this moment in time, if you're voted for and you don't go into the government side, you're actually being voted for to go into opposition. Even in Olkalau, if you today you are voted for in opposition, in an opposition party, you're actually being voted for. Because you're not going to go and remove Ruto.
No.
Yeah.
It is by election. So if you vote for someone in opposition, you are voting for somebody to go to agitate in opposition.
Yes.
It becomes very difficult for most people to think like that. They're like, okay, no. We watch it, and you'll hear even the campaigns, even from the government candidates who know the region is anti-government. They say, I'm going to government now for this period. 2027 tutapanga. But because now this is the government there, watch I get into government, we get what we can. When we have to do the overhaul of government, we will tutaangalia hiyo wakati.
Where's the long-term vision in all of this? Because I find our brand of politics is so short-sighted, hence why we are not able, one, to do proper planning in terms of anything that benefits Mwananchi. It's always very short-term and very short-sighted. It is, you get the spoils of whatever it is that you can get for your people, manage to slither into whatever committee that you can in the name of, I'm here to represent my people, and then come campaign period, we're like, okay, so now where are the tides blowing? I mean, it's a very ridiculous way of doing things, because even people who get into business usually have a long-term vision for the business. Why do we then continue treating offices and the politics of this country and the governance of this country? Let me take away the politics. The governance of this country is such a, it's a heavy thing, which is very unfortunate.
There's something, and I said it when last time I was here, and it's usually disappointing. Our politics is driven by the people, not by the politicians. Politicians do what the people want done. I always tell people, nobody goes to parliament or into leadership through a back door. You're elected by people. So the people liked what you were saying. They like the game you're playing. They like the temporariness of what you're saying. So when I walked in, you guys were talking about the finance bill and wondering how come we don't do a long term. It's because first, okay, yes, there's the factual part of it is that we collect our taxes daily, which Kenyans don't know. Most Kenyans don't actually understand that government collects money every day. They don't collect money monthly. They don't collect money annually. They collect money literally daily. They pay bills daily. At the end of the day, whoever is in charge, leo tumepata ngapi, tunalipa nini. That's how government works. But then when you come to the politics, we have people saying, what are you giving me now? When you go to campaign, the voter is, you have a long-term vision, beautiful. But again, once you're done, the question is, unatuacha aje? Meaning, at this moment in time, right now, you have come, we have listened to you. Yeah, you sound like a smart person, but sasa leo nitakula nini? Today.
Fair.
Fair enough. And speaking of sounding like smart people, I want us to go back to something that happened last week, which is Jubilee Matters, and you being a party member and being a party member who's bold enough to stand up and say, no, you guys are wrong, I am right. And I want us to first understand the stand. So the context of this is the Registrar of Political Parties dismissed your objection to change of Jubilee officials, saying that the party constitution was followed, and Dr. Fred Matiang'i is now officially the deputy party leader. And one would question, how come someone who's within the structure would be like, no, you guys are wrong. So please make us understand why you're right. And are you going to appeal this decision?
Yeah.
First, actually, we were in court this morning at the tribunal. We were pursuing this issue.
Still?
Yeah, we're going. I mean, we're not done.
You will exhaust every appeal.
We are exhausting every part. And part of it is also you want to test it's always important to test systems and processes.
Yes.
And I remember people keep telling me, you guys, you just leave. You know, there's that feeling, and that's the temporariness of how we do our politics.
Yeah.
But like, if you're having a problem with Jubilee, you just leave, ama uanze chama yako, ama uende kwa chama ingine.
I mean,
and the question, so I keep telling people, I've been in Jubilee from 2017. So we're going to nearly 10 years. Tears, laughter, it's been good and bad.
Yeah.
Right? And if I was going to leave Jubilee, I should have left in 2022 just before elections and just defected and most probably got re-elected.
Yeah.
So leaving now doesn't make sense at this moment in time. And number two, the issues I'm raising are actually the fact before that, the week before that, the same news had said that Matiang'i suffers a blow because Ngunjiri has stopped the process, right? And part of the problem and part of the things we're going to be taking to the tribunal are this. So the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties put a notice in the Gazette that they were intending to change the leadership, though the Jubilee was intending to change the leadership.
Right.
And they gave a list
When
of
was
people.
this?
That was on 17th.
Okay.
I think it was 17th of May. And they gave 7 days for anybody who has a submission on that issue.
Right.
So I was the only one, and I remember somebody in Jubilee, a senior official, saying, "Yani, out of 55 million people, it is only one guy who actually objected to the process." But I did. And based on my objection, ORPP wrote to Jubilee and said, "There's a guy here who's a member of your party who is objecting to these changes. Can you guys sort
This out internally.
Now, what I find very interesting is that after that letter, Jubilee called me for a meeting and we sat. We didn't agree. And I very quickly wrote to our people and said, but we haven't agreed.
Right.
Last week on Friday, I get a copy of a letter that was written from Jubilee to ORPP, said we met with Ngunjiri and the issues he was raising, we resolved.
You get a letter from...
It's a copy.
Okay, a copy.
So Jubilee writes to ORPP.
And says, we met,
we
we're
met,
okay.
the
Have
things
resolved.
he needed, he was worried about, we resolved, and some other issues he's raising are not related to the issue of the change of...
What are these issues that you're raising for someone who's coming across this story for the first time?
The simplest way is this. As a member of the party, part of the Political Act, the Political Parties Act and the constitution of our Jubilee Party says, as a member, you have the right to know what's going on in the party. You have the right to know how decisions have been made. You have the right to be part and parcel of that structure. And the issues I raised, for example, there was a proposal that Matiang'i is a deputy party leader and that he's a presidential candidate. Now, the process of choosing a presidential candidate in any party is to go to a national delegates convention, where the delegates are the ones who decide, yeah, you're a party, you're a presidential candidate. So I was asking, guys, I'm seeing you going around saying that Matiang'i is a presidential candidate. At what point was that decision arrived at?
Right. I'm actually on your Twitter. You gave 10 reasons why you're opposing this.
Yes.
The first one being you have to have a voice in your party.
Yes.
And of course that the party belongs to its members, not to a small group making decisions in secret.
Yes.
To ensure that Jubilee remains democratic and to not normalize unconstitutional decisions.
Yes.
Okay, you've said it's not individual, it's about protecting the ordinary members.
Process. It's a canoe thing.
Okay, so go on. So you get a letter, a copy of a letter that says Jubilee and Ngunjiri have sat and talked. And
now what surprised me is getting another copy from ORPP telling Jubilee, okay, sawa. So we are implementing the changes.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, I am the one who wrote to you guys. Shouldn't you ask me
If we have resolved the issue.
if we have resolved the issues? Why would you listen to the guy I'm complaining about telling you that we have resolved it? Let's even assume they're right.
Yeah.
Then you'd have called me or asked me
To confirm.
Are you guys
Just
okay?
confirm.
Then I say, because I wrote a long letter. I mean, part of me is also feeling a bit upset.
Yeah.
Can't write you a long letter, and then you don't even bother to say, boss, did these
Yeah.
guys
They blue-ticked you.
They just blue ticked me, and they went on like nothing has happened. You know,
It is a long letter. Ni pages
I need you
tatu.
to hold that
Actually,
thought.
ni pages nne.
As we come back to this long letter that Ngunjiri penned, and also just looking at, can we really talk of a united opposition? If at all these cracks within the parties that, make up the united opposition. This is Fixing the Nation, one conversation at a time. Taking a short break. We'll be right back.
Hello, I am Alfred Chomba. We are here in Estonia, Tallinn. We are fixing the nation. Here, transport is working, public transport, roads, the city is very clean, and we are enjoying being here.
Fixers move fast. Half an hour ago nikasema Alfia tutumi. Actually, it was an hour ago.
Yeah.
On the dot, Alfia Metuma was Up Nation from Tallinn in Estonia. That is part of it's like a small NMG team in Estonia with Eric Latif as well, Wako Tallinn, and they'll be telling us exactly what they're doing tomorrow. We'll also be going live with them to see exactly what Tallinn looks like, but no, to find out more about AI, innovation, tech from a place that is essentially the hub of tech. Send us your Was Up Nation video as well to 0769 590 762. Alfia Sante Sana. 0769 590 762 is our Was Up Nation number.
Watu wa Estonia, back to matters hapa Nairobi.
Yes.
You know, sisi hatuko Estonia, but we are breathing the same air.
Yeah, same air.
If Latif is there, we are there. Back to our conversation with Ngunjiri, who's the former Nyeri Town MP, and we're looking at Somepatuoma blue ticks. You've written to the ORPP and they decide no, they're going to communicate with your party because you're a party member. And the assumption at this point is the party is communicating within its structures. Therefore, you're receiving that communication.
Yes.
So I see where there's a gray area within the party itself. So it speaks to certain cracks that we're now starting to see within the party that is Jubilee. Now, you challenging Dr. Matiang'i as deputy party leader speaks to a lot of things, including the fact that he's been fronted as the candidate for Jubilee Party. So are you challenging that as well?
You know, he hasn't been fronted as a candidate for the Jubilee Party. He has been fronted as a candidate by a couple of officials in the Jubilee Party. The day he becomes a candidate for the Jubilee Party is the day we have an NDC.
Okay.
And by the way, in part of the back and forths after I wrote to ORPP, I actually have a letter from Jubilee saying, we are not saying that Matiang'i is the only, is the presidential party. He's the only, in fact, they tell me, it's only that he is the only one who has applied. So
He's
I asked
the
them,
only one.
So I asked them, at what point did you guys float
Right.
that
Applications
an application
open.
process? At what point did you tell us that we can apply?
Yeah.
Because you see, and this is where now they keep tripping themselves up. So when I asked them, so, and by the way, I have absolutely no problem with Matiang'i as a presidential candidate. It's not personal to him. It's the process. So when I ask, so you guys are saying Matiang'i is a presidential candidate, yes. Where was this decision made? Then they said, no, actually a decision hasn't been made. It's just that he's the only one who has come and applied. So I asked them, at what point did you tell us, and you know Jubilee has 7 million members, at what point did you tell us as members that it is okay, you can now apply to be a presidential candidate of the party?
Essentially
they haven't
saying,
told us.
I had a job opening, someone, I didn't tell anyone.
And I have employed someone.
But I've given the job to someone.
Yes.
So
I'll ask, so what if I had wanted to apply for that job?
How would I have known?
How would I have known there was a gap?
And are we still taking applications?
Yes. In fact, the letter basically suggests that we are still taking applications.
Yeah.
But how many members of Jubilee know that? It's being presented as if it's a fait accompli. It's done.
Okay.
Matiang'i is our presidential candidate. And I'm like, so if I'm a member of Jubilee and I don't agree with him, what am I supposed to do?
Let me ask.
I'm like, no, sitaenda, because the party, in fact, Matiang'i is the one who's found me in the party, you know?
Let me
So
ask.
you can't just rubbish
the unpopular question. Well, it's not the unpopular question. It's what's on everybody's mind, which is Matiang'i seems to be Uhuru Kenyatta's pick for presidency. So is your patron party leader essentially pulling the strings? And is Jubilee a democracy, or is Uhuru Kenyatta pulling the strings and saying, this is my candidate, this is my person?
I think to a large extent, Uhuru has presented Matiang'i as a candidate for Jubilee because that's a person he prefers. And I respect that. Uhuru has been president for 10 years, and he worked very closely with Matiang'i for a lot of those years. So I would understand why he thinks Matiang'i is a guy he would want to be. You can actually tell. It's like a presentation of, then he will become party leader, then he will become presidential candidate, then hopefully he'll become president. Good. I've also worked with Matiang'i. I was in a committee, in the internal security committee that oversighted him when he was Minister of Interior in the last parliament. And I have my own feelings about Matiang'i, good and bad. But I would want us to prosecute that conversation within the party.
Okay.
You know, I have colleagues of mine who are actually in Jubilee Party elected. A friend of mine from a northeastern constituency who has a major problem with Matiang'i, but he's a member of Jubilee.
Right.
So we need to have a conversation as a party because we are the ones who are supposed to sell Matiang'i. Matiang'i can't sell himself and become president.
What are your reservations about Matiang'i?
Actually, my reservations right now haven't even reached to Matiang'i. My reservations right now are still on the process. Because you see, if the process is wrong, even if the candidate is right, we have already shot ourselves in the foot.
Okay.
Because all we need is, we're going to start creating a rebellion, which looks like part of what I am doing right now. I'm like, I don't like how you guys are doing this. You know, you can be brought for somebody who's good, but the way they are brought,
it's a
like,
process. You're standing on principle.
Yes.
But you're the only one who made this objection.
I'm actually the only person who was brave enough to make that objection. And part of it, part of it is because people feel that challenging our party leader at this moment in time is disrespect. There's a feeling that, you know, Uhuru is a great guy. I mean, he did his 10 years. And, you know, people forget, I was one of his generals last parliament, and he actually gave me a presidential award for chief of the burning spear, which is pretty huge. And he gave me that presidential award because of the work I did for him. But part of that work was being able to challenge the system. I'm not the kind of guy who will be told jump, and you're asking how high. I'm asking, boss, why are we jumping? Do we need to jump? Can we do something different? And that's what I'm actually asking right now. And a lot of the feedback I'm getting even from the party is not that what you're saying is wrong. Is that, but why are you saying it?
So
why
there's a lot
asking?
more people who are looking for someone who can be vocal and represent their grievances. But you say the party has 7 million members. Out of this membership of 7 million members, if we are to estimate those people that are questioning what the officials at the top or the principals are saying, how would we apportion it?
I think the people I would say I speak for are several aspirants, because I'm an aspirant, God willing, for 2027 in Nyeri, and I would like to run on Jubilee Party. And what worries me, when I say about how decisions have been made, one of the issues I raised in my letter, even to Jubilee, was Mbere, the Mbere by-election. And now I'm looking at Olkalau. In Mbere, a decision was made that we were not going to field a candidate as Jubilee. Why? Because we are part of the united opposition. So I asked, do we have an agreement as united opposition? I said, no. You know, we have agreed that because we are all members of united opposition, when a seat is vacant, it goes to the party that owned that seat, so to speak. So in Mbere, because the seat belonged to DP, and DP is part of the united opposition, the rest of us will not field, will all support DP. So first, the question is, where did you guys agree that? Do you have a written thing? Also, no, it's a way to do. And that time I couldn't even argue too much. So Mbere went the way it went. Now here is Olkalau. The member of parliament who we lost in Olkalau was Jubilee. So we are all members of united opposition. So where aren't the other guys stepping aside and leaving this seat for us? And then now, do you get what I'm saying? But the leaders of Jubilee who argued that Mbere belonged to DP. So, and in Mbere, we already had a candidate. Yeah. There's a gentleman, very brilliant leader who is actually a person living with disability and who wanted to run on our party. And we had even issued him with a certificate. We withdrew that certificate, And then there was a conversation where we ended up having to pay him for the mistakes we had made. And I asked in my letter, so when you guys made the decision on Mbere, where was that decision made? Because as a member and as an aspirant, I'm very scared.
Yeah.
I don't want to wake up and I'm just about to run for Nyeri. Then you withdraw the certificate and you say, no, here we have decided.
We're backing
this one, we are backing which particular party.
Allow me to ask you, before we even get into Ol Kalou, because then that is coming up, if Ngunjiri was involved in the decision-making of how the party is moving and who it's speaking to, whether be its deputy, would Ngunjiri be here representing those voices within the party saying, please involve them, or would he still have the stand that he has today? Are you bringing these things forth because you were not part of the process?
No, actually. I'm bringing these points forth because those grey areas make anybody who, you see, the officials can only be so many. It's the same problem we have with government. When we don't know how government is making decisions, we can't support it. And since we can't all be in government, actually, I have absolutely no intention or desire to be an official of the Jubilee Party. First, I like the freedom of being able to say whatever I want.
Yeah.
If I was an official, I would be here having to toe party line. Now, as a member, I can... Yes. So I love the freedom of being a mere member. Instead was being called a mere member. I was like, yes, that's all right. Because it allows me to ask these questions. If a mere member who served as a member of parliament for the party does not understand how you guys are making decisions, what about the person, the rank and file, who is not even politically alert to the things that are going on? And this is where, but this is not just a Jubilee problem. When you see Sifuna doing whatever he's doing, he's most probably coming from a similar area, maybe with a different trajectory.
And hold that thought, because we'll get to the united opposition as a whole and these many cracks, because Felaris had intimated, it seems like it's a continuing trend across the opposition. But just hold that thought there. I want to go back to what you said about your party leader. Basically, umesema watu wanaogopa Uhuru Kenyatta. They don't want to be disrespectful, but as a result, they're letting things fly by. You've also said you were his confidant, you worked with him for a long time, and you were able to tell him, it was not jump you say how high. It was why are we jumping? So right now, why haven't you asked Uhuru Kenyatta, why are we jumping on this Matiang'i ship? Why haven't we followed party constitution?
Actually, my letters are exactly that. In fact, my letters are all written to him. So the first letter I wrote, because I've written a bunch of them, the first letter I wrote somewhere on the 3rd of
I'll
March.
I'll stop you, Ngunjiri. Uko na namba yake, uko na WhatsApp yake.
Also, I don't want to personalize this. This is not a personal conversation. Remember, I'm writing to him. I'm writing to Uhuru Kenyatta. I'm writing to the party leader of the Jubilee Party. And at this moment in time, the party leader of the Jubilee Party is Uhuru Kenyatta. Next year, it could be somebody different. I don't want to say that, Uhuru was my pal. And that's actually why we're in this problem. We're in this problem because guys are like, he's our pal, so we know what he's doing. I'm like, yes, so what if something happened and he's no longer the guy in the seat and how are we going to justify the decisions we made? So I asked the questions to the party leader, not to Uhuru Kenyatta, to the party leader as an office. I'm like, I am seen as making decisions, and as a member of this party, I am not sure how those decisions have been made. So you explain to me. And that's now the problem. I'm told, why are you asking those questions? I'm like, first, I'm a grown-up. Second, I am a member of this party. And that, I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but are you telling me I don't have a right to ask those questions?
But now, given that we are 14 months to the 2027 election, highly contested, the opposition is chanting one term. The goal is to get President Ruto out. Is it even going to work out if at all these cracks within the parties that make up the bigger body that is the united opposition will come to Ol Kalou, because there's also beef there? Like, if the parties themselves are beefing amongst each other and the parties themselves are having issues like this, is there hope for this united opposition?
First, I'm a Jubilee member, so I am biased to Jubilee. So when you tell me we will not field a candidate in Mbere because the former member of parliament was not Jubilee, then you tell me in Ol Kalou it's free for all. I'm like, see, we are being taken for granted. See, we are hapa tunachezwa. Then I'm asking you as leaders, as officials, inyi ya muoni tukichezwa ama what's going on. You guys can see we are being played, and that's part of the problem.
Right.
So then the second question becomes United Opposition. Who exactly is United Opposition? DP was part of government.
Yeah.
In fact, DP is actually not part of Azimio. DP, Democratic Party, is part of Kenya Kwanza. But now JB Muturi is a member of the United Opposition, right? The guys I see shouting one time the loudest are still in UDA. They haven't left
Kamanani.
Medhu. I mean, they are UDA rank and file. They, just that the clothes they are wearing is a national guy wearing Manu uniform, but inside, yeah, ni mtu ya Arsenal. But you're telling us, Arsenal, these other guys are bad, but you haven't left. You know, so I ask myself, who really is United Opposition? Then we have Akina Sifuna on the other side, who are also opposition, and then we have Oburu, wanataka power. I'm like, okay, see, we sit down first and we agree.
Yeah.
And you see, the reason why we are having a problem with being able to unite is because we are focusing on removing Ruto. We can't run a campaign on removing someone. We have to run a campaign on what exactly we want to offer Kenyans that actually compares with what Ruto is doing. If you continue running a campaign on remove Ruto, he's going to beat us in the morning. Because remember, did you see the reactions from Kenyans after that security breach yesterday? Even guys who don't like him were like, "Ay, that's not good." So everybody appreciates he is the president and he's an important fellow. Then on this other side, we have a bunch of people who are calling themselves United Opposition. We can't agree on who our candidate is. 11 months to an election. When we bring that conversation, we are saying, no, it's too early. If we say, atanunuliwa, I'm like, boss, come on, our candidate will be bought. See, we already have a problem. Because it means we don't have an issue that we are pushing that is so powerful that it will challenge him. We can't make a re-election about sending Ruto home. It must be, this is what Ruto has done. We want to replace him because we can do this. But nobody wants us to have that conversation. So every time you introduce, okay, as Jubilee, what do we think about this whole idea of, I mean, we've been a national party, we've been a ruling party. Why are we hanging out with people who push tribal rhetoric and ethnic division? We don't know, but he's helping us to fight Ruto. I'm like, he was Ruto's pal. Walikosana their own personal issues. We are riding on his bitterness. So what if tomorrow he changes his mind and they become pals again?
That's very true. What do they tell you when you say that? Because it's very plausible. Rigathi Gachagua Ruto reunification is not.
We can't build our party on the hope that Rigathi will continue being enemies with
Ruto.
Because first, we don't even know where they fell out as a party. So we don't know where they'll make up. So what if we wake up in January next year and Rigathi and Ruto are back together again, and we've spent 1 year screaming one term behind him, and nobody is saying what one term means
so
as
the
Jubilee.
opposition is running a risk of there's a very silent mistrust that is there within the principles and the parties themselves, which in itself does not paint a very good picture and does not lend any kind of comfort to the electorate that is looking at, okay, what's the alternative that we have? And even not just rallying behind the person. I mean, that's a brand of politics that we do, but let's fast forward to maybe a couple of months towards the election, and Rigathi Gachagua is announced as the flag bearer for the opposition.
It will fall apart. First and foremost, because a lot of people who are around Rigathi are around him because they hope he will not be allowed to run, and he'll support them. And then Rigathi has created this perception, I am the one who owns the votes of Mount Kenya, and I'm like, well, boss, I come from there and you don't own mine. But he's created the perception, these votes of Mount Kenya, I gave them to Ruto. Now I am going to remove them from Ruto and I am going to give them to
whoever it is.
Right. So the minute he becomes a candidate, he's not giving them to anyone. So he'll fall out with Kalonzo, he'll fall out with everybody else. And then also when you talk to the supporters of the people who rally around Gachagua, they're like, we actually can't vote for him. But we love what he's doing. We love that he fights Ruto. And so you find a conversation of, we like the fact that he fights Ruto. Now, if you guys were friends and you fell out, so the enemy of my enemy is my friend, is what this is a current philosophy that is operating within the United Opposition. But then How sustainable is that?
So what
How
I'm
do you
saying-
take that to a ballot?
So there's so many cracks within the opposition,
Yeah.
and you can see many of them, like within Jubilee, within UDA. But to me, what I'm reading from this is Rigathi Gachagua is probably the biggest, what do you call it, a loose cannon, whatever you want to call it, threat,
Yeah.
yes, to the united opposition.
Actually, before he left government, United Opposition had a plan. They had content. They had what they were challenging. They would wake up and say, finance bill is bad because of 1, 2, 3, 4. They would say, no, we don't like the building, the housing project because of ABCD. Today, if you asked a random Kenyan to tell you what United Opposition stands for, stands for one term. Right? And it's competed with 2 term.
Yeah.
So you're forcing people to decide whether you want to Ruto to come back or stay for the sake of it, not for anything. Now, I keep asking, guys, so when I listen to the government, they say that by next year, they'll have built 200,000 houses. So they'll have, let's just assume 200,000 houses had 5 people each working in those houses. That's 1 million people.
That's 1 million people.
Who have been affected, who have benefited from that project. Will they vote for Ruto, or you think they're going to vote against him? They'll most probably vote for him. Because to them, you haven't told them anything else. Sisi tumekula pesa ya Ruto, tumejenga hizi nyumba. Then the president has his way of hosting large parties in State House.
Yeah.
Guys come out smiling. So he's churning out people every day. You as opposition have nothing to compare. First, you can't compete with him for chums. So you have nothing to compare with what he's doing. But you're still thinking you're going to beat him. How?
Ngunjiri, if you look at what DCP leader is doing,
Yes.
is essentially mobilizing at grassroots level. I would say for anyone, aliena macho tizama,
Yes.
if you look carefully within the united opposition, Rigathi is doing quite a bit of work on the grassroots. So it's hard to dismiss him and say that
Absolutely.
he would not even show up at the table with enough merit to carry that ticket because he's done the work. So the other parties, the question is left to, including Jubilee, are you doing the work to mobilize on grassroots? Olkalau campaigns start and DCP wins. What does that say about the mountain and where the power has shifted?
Let me tell you, I hosted Matiang'i in Nyeri. We were opening an office. And I mobilized like 2,000, 2,500 people. What annoyed me, and I told them, I've mobilized Jubilee people to come and meet their presidential candidate. And then Matiang'i starts talking about Gachagua. And I'm like, boss. Hiya, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
I mean, these guys want to listen to you tell them about what you will do for them if they vote for you. And I told them, and I told both him and Kioni, you guys have just done us dirty because the reason we are in Jubilee and not DCP, there's a reason. I mean, we could be in DCP. And I asked them, have you ever heard Gachagua speaking about Jubilee? Or about you, Matiang'i? Have you ever seen him in another function where you are not? And he said, Matiang'i is my friend.
No.
We are working closely together.
Yeah,
He never
kazi
does it.
yake inakuanga tu
Yeye
Ruto,
ni chama
Ruto,
yake na
na
kuchapa enemy yake.
Ehe.
But now, me, here I am. I have mobilized members, supporters. We are in the middle of Nyeri Town, where we have, and that's a political kahot point where we actually do siasa. And we are sitting there waiting for you to tell us. Then the first thing you say, Gachagua is my friend. We are working closely together. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, forget about my personal issues with Gachagua. These guys over here want to hear what you are going to do for them and why there's a difference. Why should they be in Jubilee and not DCP? But now when you stand up as a political leader and say, even the guys in the other party are our friends, you're confusing us. So why should we be with you? Why shouldn't we be with them?
Let me ask, does the united opposition work without Rigathi Gachagua?
At this moment in time, it doesn't look. I mean, look, he's been in the UK hanging out with people. What has the opposition been doing? Nothing until he comes back. And that's a challenge I keep challenging my party. I'm like, boss, we have been around way before Gachagua. In fact, Gachagua was a member of our party. Gachagua played in Mount Kenya, for example. He was the biggest factor in destroying our party.
Jubilee.
In Mount Kenya. How are we depending on him to help us come back? Of course, he's not going to help us come back. In fact, we are an existential threat to his party because we are an alternative. So why are we working with him? And that's what I keep asking. Why are we working with Gachagua? Gachagua has nothing to gain from a vibrant Jubilee. He wants us dead.
Should the united opposition emancipate itself from completely cut off from Gachagua? For
First, there's
DCP
no
to go form
united
its own?
opposition. Let's first agree that. I've just told you how
There's
confusing.
okay.
We have UDA, sections of UDA in opposition, sections of
PLP.
ODM in opposition, sections of DP in opposition. So something will have to be decided, and then we can't have a random, fluid thing and call it united opposition. You guys, we were supposed to sit down, get a coalition agreement or a pre-coalition agreement. We need to know why we are together. That would have saved us from Olkalau getting embarrassed, where we are now competing with people who told us a couple of months ago we can't compete.
You guys cannot compete.
Two very brief questions as we close. One, historia wewe kwa Moi lilitoka wapi?
Because I ask questions. You see, that's what I told you. The problem we have in our politics is if you question the boss, umelipwa na nani?
Right.
So I asked them, when I'm supporting him, umelipwa na nani? You can't tell me that when I support him, I am okay.
Yeah.
Then when I question him, I am not. Unless you're telling me I'm not supposed to think.
Right.
And if I expect to lead and to be part of a process, you want me to bring my brain with me. You don't want me to leave it outside. And when I bring my brain with me, it means that I don't necessarily agree with everything you're doing. Maybe because I'm wrong. But you have a responsibility to explain to me, this is why I'm doing it.
Correct.
You can't assume that utaanza kufanya kitu, then I follow because
Blindly.
I mean, unless we live in a dictatorship. This is a democracy.
Yeah.
And if you can't run a democracy in the party, how are you going to run a democracy in the country?
Okay.
That's true.
Let me allow you to just hold that thought for 1 second. We'll come back with you after the break for just 5 minutes to wrap up on some questions around some prominent opposition leaders. Let me not use the word united, who are missing in action, but we'll just hold that thought for 1 minute. Hashtag is Fixing the Nation NTV. We'll be right back. We'll also do a quick spot check on the roads to see what's happening as far as the Matatu strike is concerned. We'll be back after this. No comment. Wacha tumalize conversation yetu na Ngunjiri Wambugu. And just before the break, I wanted to know what's happening with some prominent opposition leaders. I think you're right in stating that there is no united opposition. Let's just call them opposition leaders. The absence of Martha Karua, for example, has been loud. Kunaendaje?
I think Martha decided she doesn't want to hang on to Gachagua, and she wants to cut out her own space. And you've seen her doing her own rallies as PLP. She came to Nyeri. I saw her in Meru. She's doing her thing. PNU, Munya, is doing his own thing. But then Munya is also very clear. He's not running for president. He's running for governor of Meru. So his politics tends to be a bit limited to the region or to the county that he's running for. You have JB Muturi. I don't actually know what he's running for, but he's a party leader of DP. You have Eugene Wamalo. I don't know what happened to him. He disappeared. Then we have Kalonzo, who Kalonzo is struggling to sustain his brand because he believes, and he's right, he's the longest serving opposition leader we have right now. And since Raila is not there anymore, opposition should rally around him. But he doesn't seem to be doing anything about it. He just expects that it's going to fall in place. And then he's one of the people who is hoping that Gachagua is going to do the right thing and support him. Because he's thinking you just came to opposition
thinking
the other
that
day.
Gachagua is going to do the right thing is crazy.
You just came to opposition the other day, so really you can't come and lead us. But you're a good mobilizer. You know that thing of you're a good mobilizer. We can use you. Just mobilize your people to my side, and then we find you something to do. Which is quite naive to imagine that Gachagua is going to do that. And he says it. I don't even know why people don't take him seriously. He keeps asking, I can't do all his work. And then you guys think I'm going to bring you. I need to see you also doing some work. So the opposition right now, unfortunately, even for us, Matiang'i, and I like it, but it's also because I started making noise. I take credit for it. I started making noise about it. I said, boss, I don't even see you in red. Say, we're in red. I don't see you doing your own thing. Say, doing his own thing. So now I'm telling him, can you cut yourself away from Gachagua? I hope he's going to do it.
Does he have the mass appeal? Having served under President Uhuru Kenyatta, there's reasons why Uhuru picked him. To, be the, party candidate, much as, all of this, the procedure was not followed. But we'll get to, Uhuru and the party. Is Jubilee Uhuru? Is Uhuru,
actually right
the
now,
distinction
the fight
in
we're having is to make sure Jubilee is not Uhuru. Because if Jubilee is Uhuru, then it means the day Uhuru retires,
The party ceases
the
to
party is
exist.
done. And that's what I'm fighting against. It
It's
can't
going
be
to be
that
an ODM situation.
Yes, it can't be that our party is pegged on Uhuru and the day he stops doing siyasa, we're done. I mean, we have to have a continuity program. And if the continuity is Matiang'i, good enough. But Matiang'i then needs to step out of the shadow because it's also going to start, and that's why the process is so important. If the process looks like it was not done right, then he's not going to be able to protect himself from looking like a Uhuru project. You are put here by Uhuru.
Yeah.
And not everybody agrees with Uhuru. Some of us get very disappointed about how 2022 went and the leadership Uhuru gave us in 2022. So we will start getting that feeling of, do we really want to be led by somebody who might do to us what Uhuru did to us in 2022?
Yeah.
You know, and that's a question. That's a very live question.
Also
within the
remembering
party.
that a lot of people that voted for William Ruto, we don't vote for people as much as we vote against.
Against,
They were voting against Uhuru, not necessarily for William Ruto.
Yes.
So is that a constituency that you also want?
And I also
to
remind
be
people that William Ruto was in Jubilee until 2022. And he was a member of Jubilee, was a deputy party leader of Jubilee. A lot of the people in UDA were in Jubilee. So then, people don't also appreciate that Jubilee is the third largest parliamentary party in Kenya today. There's also been a failure in our leadership in leveraging that. We have 28 members of parliament, we have a senator, and they're actually national. And that's why this one-term, two-term conversation must be held within Jubilee. Because you see, we are assuming that because I come from Mount Kenya and we are one-term, everybody in Jubilee is one-term. You will find members of parliament from Northeastern, for example, who are very two-term.
Yeah.
And they're in Jubilee. Are you saying that they are not part of the party? So when I'm trying to force us as a party to have a conversation as a party, it includes stuff like that. We have taken a posture that we are all anti-government. But somebody in government tells you, but you gave us 3 ministers.
Yeah.
You gave us a bunch of PSs. So in this government, tuko na watu yenyu.
Yeah.
Na mnasema
You're
hamko
anti-government.
kwa serikali. And then you have a situation where you have a bunch of members of parliament elected on our party, Kwenya, Irene in Nakuru, Kwenya in Kinango, who are hanging around with government. So the question becomes, so did they stop being members of Jubilee?
Right.
If they didn't, do we have an arrangement? And that's it. We need to sit as a party and agree we are one term as a party across the board in the whole country, not in sections of the country. Because Jubilee doesn't belong to a particular part of the country. If we are going to be one term, then you need to go and convince guys of Garissa, where Shurie has been elected as a member of parliament of Jubilee, why they should be one term.
Yes.
Or Shurie is going to come and convince us in Mount Kenya why we should be two term.
Yeah.
But we can't be everywhere.
At Chapaswam Samba.
Yes.
All this is reading, like, to me, is the fact that political parties, and we've said this on this show so many times, in Kenya are just, it's what you use to get
Vehicles.
to vehicles.
Yeah.
You just use it to get to the ballot, and then after that it's oh well. And I can see that you're trying to push for something structural, something consistent. It seems like the more uphill task.
It is an
I'll be
uphill task.
honest.
I mean, even I admit. Fortunately, I have time on my hands, so I can...
You have time.
I have time on my hands in that at this moment in time, as I said, I don't have to make a political decision right now. I can actually challenge where I am and do everything I can. Let me wacha nishindwe. Wacha niseme enyewe nilijaribu nikashindwa. As unlike a lot of my colleagues, former colleagues in the 12th parliament who are members of Jubilee who've left. Why? Because they don't see us going anywhere. Me, I'm like, boss, see, the reason you're not going anywhere is because people are leaving. See, we first try and stay, challenge,
Right.
tushindwe, tutoke, tuseme enyewe.
Before the
hawezi
canoe
saidiwa.
capsizes.
Just before you ask Felaris, I know it's because I was asking it about it being an uphill task, because I was like, you know what, just do a comparison, because you're privy to these things of the way, for example, UDA operates versus ODM and Jubilee. We have to be honest with ourselves. There's something they're doing right in that camp. Like, walk me through those differences that work or seem to work from the outside looking in UDA.
What UDA has done, UDA has created a party structure. Same thing ODM had done for quite a while.
Right.
You have a structure that starts at polling center level, 20 people going up. So when you're making a decision, you have a structure that takes the information down. If you're a ruling party and you want to say we are doing well, You create content at the center, maybe at Itumbi's office, and then you push it down. And there's actually a channel that takes it to the guy at the grassroots. Okay. We don't have that in Jubilee. Yes.
We get to push affordable housing, for
Yes.
example.
They have a
how many
structure
houses we've whatever
that moves it down.
we've built. Okay.
ODM, because I was in ODM at some point, had a very strong grassroots-based structure.
Okay.
So did Kanu. Jubilee, for some reason, I think because we came together as a URP-TNA thing in 2013, and then Jubilee to get re-elected in 2017, have never really invested in the
That
grassroots
kind of
structure.
machinery.
And that is why they are upset when a mere member questions them. But in ODM, a member can do this. You know, in UDA, you can actually have this structure. But then now UDA is in government, so government intimidates you into silence. When Jubilee was in government, it would have intimidated. In fact, I would most probably have been called a long time ago, wacha hii maneno. Fortunately, now we are not in government. So we can actually ask these questions and force this conversation. And as I said, we will force the conversation to Shindwe, then it will actually be public that this party is not democratic. Then now we can have that conversation as well.
I'm curious. 14 months is not a long time. Time is moving fast.
Yes.
So you've picked this battle and said, this is the hill that I want to die on first before anything else. So let's fast forward to a time where your prayers are not answered by the party and you have to make a decision. We've seen Sifuna been pressured to make a decision for him to decide where it is. Is he still within ODM? Is he with Linda Mwananchi? Is Linda Mwananchi a party? What does that look like for Ngunjiri? If within Jubilee, your requests, prayers are not answered, are you still going to run on a Jubilee ticket? Or are you going to pick another party too? Because you've not painted the rosiest picture of Jubilee.
And what I've painted is a real picture of Jubilee. In our current constitution that was passed last year, after an NDC we had in Racecourse, our current constitution says that by 1 year to the next election, we're supposed to have an NDC.
Okay.
So one way or the other, by August this year, we're supposed to have an NDC. By August this year, that NDC is supposed to determine who the leadership of the party is now, factually. In fact, when I did the meeting with the party leadership 2 weeks ago on my issues, they were suggesting that the leaders we have put in ORPP are temporary. Because even they, Matiang'i as a deputy party leader, Kioni as a deputy party leader, are supposed to be appointed by the NDC, not by the party leader. The party leader can do it temporarily when there's a vacancy. But the NDC is the governing body of the party. We're supposed to have this NDC by August. Part of what I'm going to be pushing for is that NDC by August. If we don't have the NDC by August, then really we are hakuna pale tunaenda kama chama. Sasa hapo naweza keti chini na timu yangu, I tell them now, guys, this one is not going anywhere. We go. But I want to believe, I don't want to do the normal thing of walking away just because something has become hard. Let me walk away with a reason. That nikikuja hapa, the next time you call me on Fixing the Nation and you ask me, Ngunjiri, you left, I will be able to break it down for you in very simple terms. This is the reason. A lot of people who left parties, if you ask them why they left, can't.
Ni vibes tu. Sikuwa najisikia.
Hii kitu hii chama vile niliona, haikuwa inaenda poa.
Damu yangu na yake hazikuwa
And then it was
zinasikizana.
uphill. You see that idea? This party was uphill. Why, who says uphill is something we run away from? Nobody gets, you don't get here by running away from uphill. You guys got here very early in the morning. If you had an easy way, you'd have taken the easy way. But the reason, we must get used to doing the hard work to take care of our parties. Or they still continue being owned by individuals and they make decisions the way they want.
I'll throw a spanner your way, even as we look at the feedback, because we have plenty of it. Everybody always has a plan B. If this career of mine doesn't work out, I'm going to become a musician. If this career of mine doesn't work out, I'm going to go and maybe become, I don't know, a painter. If Jubilee doesn't work out, where are we moving?
The advantage of 14 months and the advantage of having been in office, the advantage that I still have a brand that allows you guys to call me to come and speak, is that you have options. You can run as an independent. You can go to another party. You can transfer. You know,
There's a transfer.
Gonna team yako in a sync. There's a transfer. But I am at this moment in time, I want to believe that our team is not dead.
Okay.
Some
So you
people
still
think it
believe
is.
there's a fighting
Some people
chance.
have left, but I want to believe. And how we would prove to Kenyans that the party is not dead is when we prove to them that we are willing to do the hard work and make the right decisions. And the people we are appointing, there's a process. You're able to say, by the way, for example, one of the challenges that we have, a lot of the new members who have been proposed to be leaders, officials, were not even in Jubilee in 2022. One guy ran on PNU. The new Secretary General ran on ODM. The chairman ran on UDA. So I'm like, out of 7 million people, out of 7 million people, you could get members who have been in the party long enough to
at least 3 years kidogo. Oh, I feel you. Thank you so much, Ngunjiri. Thank you so much. That's former Nyeri Town MP Ngunjiri Wambugu on what is happening within Jubilee and his challenge of the appointment of new party officials. Let's look at some of your feedback now, and I think we'll actually keep it even away from the conversation because I think we've covered most of that, and take a quick look at the roads. In the next hour, actually the next 40 minutes, we'll be speaking to Nairobi Women Rep Esther Passaris. But looking at your feedback on YouTube, Kate Kago is saying there's no public transport in Karatina, Marwa, Nyeri to Nanyuki, all routes all the way up to Mwega, whether it's a matatu or a boda boda. Yeah. So essentially, it seems there is a silent go-slow. This was not announced by matatu operators or by SACCO officials. This one was just necessity to decide, which is probably coming from a feeling of betrayal after Friday's press conference. Hey, but mambo ni mengi. Alafu, there was other updates on the roads, including on Thika Road, saying Thika Road seems to be okay. One of the fixers had said from the CBD coming towards Thika Road, things are looking good. She edit says, Nani anajua wayaki wikoaje na Ngong Road, let us know. John Mwangi is asking about Thika Road, and of course we have updated you, at least from the CBD towards Thika Road seems to be okay. But those on Thika Road are saying getting matatus is quite hectic. And then user UNY says Nairobi CBD is quite peaceful at the moment, nothing much going on. Alafu, the nation is calm, that's according to Don Army Jr. And then other people are saying, you know what, it seems a bit quiet, but hakuna matatu in Meru. This is Evelyn Mwangi saying Meru hakuna matatu na lorry, just personal vehicles. A lorry is also on strike. Low key.
You know, it's just a spot check across the country. Let us know and send pictures, by the way, if you have them, or videos. Yes. It would really help just to make sense of what is going on. Kama uko kwa stage mahali, that would also help us. And if you're an operator within that and, you know, you have some, I don't know, some updates from fellow operators, it would also help if we got those.
Yeah. Watu wa Nakuru, Grace Gitau had asked, Kevin had asked how is Nakuru. Leo Pro tells her, mambo iko sawa, cars are still on the road. So yeah, continue updating us what's happening. And then watu wakiuliza kama kuna maandamano, I'm seeing other people saying maandamano mtu draw from 9 a.m., which is very true.
That is so true.
You can never know very early in the morning.